You are listening to WOOP-LP, Cleveland, Tennessee. WOOP FM is a broadcasting service of the Traditional Music Resource Center, and we play America's original music.
Where'd the old town go? They moved it on north of here in the shopping mall.
Good morning and welcome to Old Town Cleveland here on WOOP FM 99.9, or you can go to the internet at www.woopfm.com. You can call us this morning at 614-5553, and it is my privilege to introduce my lovely co-host, Miss Debbie Moore. Good morning.
Good morning, Ron. Today is June the 8th. 2013, and I know that some folks have tried to pull up last week's show and it didn't record, and we're real sorry about that. We did Birds of Prey, and Doug Mizell set in so we could have a weekend off. We are working on our soon-to-be, the finished 4 years.
4 years and 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, that we've been doing this show most every Saturday morning. I think we've been off the air 2 Saturdays, one that we had a pre-recording that didn't record, and 1 year it landed on Christmas. But other than that, we've been right here with you at Old Town Cleveland. We appreciate our listeners. Before we get started here this morning, we would like to acknowledge the passing of Benji Riggs. He was a longtime listener and a longtime friend of Ron and I's. We'll miss him being on the internet every morning. And also, we understand that last night, we lost Ralph Armstrong, a well-known resident here in Cleveland. And, of course, one of our all-time favorite guests here on Old Town Cleveland, we lost Freddie Hyde this week. And we would like to remember those families and let them know that they're in our thoughts and prayers.
And when we go off the air today, we're going to play a song that one of the most famous songs Freddie ever sang, or everybody would love to hear, was Beulah Land. I've got a recording of that, and I'm going to play that.
No one could sing Sweet Beulah Land like Freddie could
so
sing.
I'm going to play that when we go off the air today.
And we have a very special guest with us today, and we've been talking about getting him on the show here for quite a while, and we have Bill Creech with us today, and we're going to be talking about Little League football. And it's really hard for me not to say midget league football.
Well, that's what it was with it then. But
that was before everything became so politically correct.
That's true. Of course, Bill, you've got to blame Mike Smith. He recommended you.
Yeah, Mike's gotten me in trouble before.
Yeah.
You got to quit hanging around.
Haven't we all?
Yeah. I was expecting him to be here with me to take some of the pressure off. I mean, I'm sure his memory is a whole lot better than mine as well. And by him not showing up like this, I'm going to vote for a Democrat next election.
We'll be glad for you to come over to our side, Bill. We'll be glad
that'll pay him back. Thank you for having me.
He just got up and put his shoes on, headed this way.
Slip those penny loafers on. Next week's show, Ron, is going to be, the lies that will be told. We're going to have all the umpires on from this area with Jerry Frazier, and then on the 22nd, a show we've been looking forward to for a long time, Linda Caldwell from the Tennessee Over Hills Association from up in Etowah is going to be here, and she's going to be talking about the Trail of Tears in this area.
And the O-line that goes
O-line trains, and all the kind of stuff that happened up in Etowah and Copper Basin and all those things. And so very knowledgeable. Well, she will be able to answer all your questions. And then on June 29th, we have Connie Wright coming in, and she's going to be talking about old cars. And we're already booking our shows for July.
Right.
We're going to have a very special one in July.
Oh, yes.
We have, we won't mention a name yet, but we have someone coming on, firsthand knowledge about growing up in Reliance around the Webb store there. And I think that's going to be a tremendous show.
Bill, how you doing this morning?
Doing good. Weather's getting nice, starting to get a little warmer. Garden is coming along fine, and
what you growing in your garden, Bill?
Well, I've got some pole beans and some tomatoes, and
no, they're maters. If you grow them in your
maters, yeah. I'm from South Georgia, so when I first came to Tennessee, and I'm here by choice. Y'all were born here, and I'm here because I love it, and you couldn't run me out of here now with a stick of dynamite. But I had a hard time making the adjustment to some of the languages that we heard in East Tennessee and Cleveland. But anyway, if tomatoes, tomato, whatever they are, those little red things, they really are good.
They sure are good, aren't they?
They are.
Ron has moved our garden from the yard up to our deck, and he has one of the prettiest container gardens you've ever seen. And we've got some tomato plants that are those big boys, you think?
They're taking over whatever it is. I can't remember.
They're massive plants. I don't know how many tomatoes we're going to have.
Yeah. Well, have you ever tried growing them upside down?
I have tried that. Didn't have a lot of luck on it, but I did try it. And
there were little birds that like to build their nest in the top of those.
I'm growing a purple tomato this year.
Wow. I've never seen one of them.
Kent Chastain, Dr. Chastain told me the other day, he says, you ought to try the purple tomato. So I forgot the name of it, but sure enough, they had a purple tomato plant where we were at, and so
we get a lot of our plants up at the we call it the Amish farm,
the
Mennonites farm up in Delano.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes that works really well, and sometimes it doesn't work so well. We've occasionally had named plants and come up with something really strange when we thought we were doing something normal.
Now, does anyone know how to grow Brussels sprouts?
No, I've never tried Brussels sprouts.
Well, I've tried them this year. I've got beautiful plants, but there's no Brussels sprout on it.
Well,
I don't know what I'm missing. So
I think we're going to chop it up and stir fry it, whatever it is, because it certainly looks like it'd be good.
Good morning. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Good morning, Ron.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing better. My husband is at the Peerless Road Farmers Market. Got fresh cucumbers, fresh squash, plenty of cabbage, plenty of everything.
That sounds good. And how long will he be there?
Be there till 12 or after.
Unless he sells out early?
Yeah, he's got a good sale on cabbage.
All right, cabbage. All right, so that's
plenty
up.
Of cabbage.
Now that's up on Peerless Road, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And he's a Korean veteran.
All right.
All right. Thank
now,
you.
what kind of truck's he driving?
S10 Chevrolet with a white camper on it.
All right, we'll
There
know
you
who
go.
he is then. All right.
Okay,
All righty.
bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. When you stop up there, folks, be sure to tell them you heard about it right here on Old Town Cleveland. I always like to go to the farmers market. Not only do they have good vegetables and little crafts and things that you can buy, but there's some really interesting people set up selling their stuff that like to talk.
Bill, you mentioned that you're from South Georgia. What part of Georgia were you from originally?
well, if you're from there, it's all Benning. That's not the way the rest of the United States pronounces it, but if you're from there, that's the way it's pronounced. But it's way down in South Georgia near the Florida line, Valdosta and Moultrie, Thomasville area. Good and hot. You have to learn how to blow the gnats and that type thing. But that's still home. But of course, I've lived here in Cleveland so long that this is really my home now. But you always have a place in your heart for where you came from.
Now, what brought you to Cleveland?
Yeah, I got out of the Army, and a lot of your listeners probably won't remember this, but the Berlin crisis came along, and I was getting discharged. 5 days before my discharge date, President says, "No, you guys got to stay in for the duration of this thing." So I wound up with another 7 or 8 months in, and didn't have a job. And I came to Cleveland to work with a life insurance company. And that's what brought me here. And my intentions were just to be here for a while until I get my feet on the ground and go back to school or whatever I was gonna do. And we just absolutely fell in love with Cleveland and the people here. And Cleveland was such a small town at the time, but everybody was very accepting of us, and we just loved it here and thought this would be a great place to raise our children, and the lakes and the mountains, and looked a whole lot better than the swamps and the pine trees down
Now,
south.
were you married when you got here?
I'm sorry.
Were you married when you got here?
Yes, I was. I was married and had 2 children when I got here.
okay.
Yeah. I started early. Down in South Georgia, we don't fool around.
So I know
add that I'm still married
Right,
as
yeah.
well to the same woman. 50
I know
55 years,
Scotty.
something like that.
I said, Scotty, won't you come in with your dad? And he says he has to go see his grandchildren.
That's right.
So I was going, oh my goodness, his
Yeah,
grandchildren.
I've got great grandchildren. That's amazing. Three children. One of them was born here in Cleveland. The other two were born while I was in the Army. And then we've got two great grandchildren. And those grandkids and great grandkids, they're your reward for not drowning your own kids.
And it's payback for them too.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, we have I know our daughter called the other day and wanted to know if they could she could turn our granddaughter back in.
To us, just turn her over to us.
She said she's not having a good day, and I said, well,
Those days
I
happens.
said you used to have a few of those yourself.
Yeah,
or a lot of those. Now you got in the insurance business. I know you stayed in the insurance business through your whole career here and retired from that. How many years ago now?
Well, I came here with Interstate Life Insurance Company, and I worked for them for 3 years. And to go any further with them, I got in their training program. But to go any further, I was going to have to move and make several moves, and we just did not want to move away from Cleveland. So I went to Allstate Insurance Company and asked them to give me a shot at starting an Allstate agency here. And they actually turned me down a couple of times, but I went back and didn't tell them they'd turned me down before, and they finally hired me the third time, and I started right next door to your studio here where the old Sears building was. Yeah, 1964. I stayed with Allstate for 37 years, and I retired in 2001 when I turned 60. So,
what were those early years of the Village Mall like here?
This was the place where it was happening. Mentioned earlier that Cleveland was not that large of a town at the time, and in a month, Debbie, you would see everybody in Bradley County would come through this mall. They would go to the bowling alley or they would go shopping. This was a modern mall at the time, and everybody was here. It was crowded all the time. There was always some kind of activity going on. Mr. Rogers was I guess the manager or something. Marshall Wallace was the maintenance director, and Jimmy Coyne, them had their office over in the building where the paint store was, and it was just a wonderful place to be. I met so many people here and made so many good friends.
Is this where you met Eddie Cartwright?
Well, I said I met a lot of good people, but
I was going to qualify that, yeah. But he had his clothing store was right here, wasn't it, in this building? And did it become the Hobby Lobby, or was it next door?
I think it was next door. It was the Village Esquire. And I'm not sure if he was here when I first came or not. There was a hardware store across the street. Wayne Dixon was the manager of it, and he later came with Sears as a salesman. But Eddie came in here, and Johnny Simmons worked for him when he was in high school, and I guess in college. You remember Johnny, how involved he was in Vietnam Veterans Association. And I met that's where I first met Eddie. And I met a lot of other guys there, too, because he had a couple of couches, and everybody didn't have anything to do. They'd hang out over there and tell stories, and a few lies may have snuck in every now and then, but I met a lot of people.
Guaranteed, right? Well, I'll tell you, having a insurance agency where it's happening was not a bad place to be, was it?
Absolutely.
I mean, walk by a business, you got to say, let's check.
Sure.
Yeah, now, did you run this by yourself, or did I know later on you had some other people worked with you?
I did for a couple of years. And I worked with Don Nance was with me about a year, and then I was by myself for a couple of years. And then Jim Brown, who was assistant manager at Miller's Department Store, which was that was an upscale shopping place. Debbie will remember that. She was a little bitty girl.
I wasn't too big.
But it was an uptown place. I mean, everybody came to Miller's. That's where they wanted to buy their things from. Parks Bill was across the street, and Ed Duncan was the manager of that place. But as you said, there was just so much exposure. Sears always prided themselves on being the store where America shopped. This was back in the day. They were well respected, and people would, hey, let me give you a rate. Let's talk about it a little bit. And so I would not have had that exposure had I not been here. There was a disadvantage of not being in offices and having privacy and so forth, but the advantages offset the disadvantages.
Privacy doesn't pay well.
No, it didn't. I had a wonderful career. I certainly enjoyed being down here, and I almost cried when we moved across the street to I can't remember what the name of the building.
Yeah,
I remember the Sears
the
catalog store
shop.
being over there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I don't. Now Sears here, was it a full blown Sears or was it just a catalog place?
It was a catalog store. And they were one of the leading Sears catalog stores in the southeastern area. Terry McGill, I don't know if you guys remember Terry. He was active in the Chamber of Commerce and stuff. He was a real promoter, and he'd have tent sales outside, and Carl Montgomery was one of the seven there, and Dan Hawk. It was a good place to be. John Holt was with Kresge's down the Reed. He now lives in Dallas, retired from them.
So what did you like to eat at the food bar at Kresge's? Or was it?
Well, you had the Village Cafe.
The Village
here.
Cafe.
Then you had Cole's little counter. Then Kresge's had a little counter.
That's right. They all had a counter, yeah. Jack Calcer ran the restaurant down here. I forget the name of it.
The Village Cafe.
The Village Cafe, yeah.
Yeah.
And he also had a slot car racing out there.
Right.
That Swiss Alley.
I came done a lot of that, yeah.
I bet you did. Well, downstairs, too, the bowling area,
Yes.
they had a snack shop, and they had a lot of arcade games. And
I played a few of those. Played a few games of pool, and never did bowl much down there when I was younger, but I definitely
I've got a
was down
couple
there.
of questions online here. Someone did mention that Ruth Goodner was the credit manager.
That's exactly right. Ruth Goodner was the credit manager, and Joe Stewart was there, and Bob Brinkley was a service guy who later on became a service manager, and he's back now in Cleveland. And Barbara Guffey, her husband, was the county executive.
I think Coach Logston's father transferred here to see.
Bill. Okay, I couldn't think of his first name.
Yeah, he surely did.
Yeah.
We were retail by that time.
Right.
Yeah.
When they moved across the street, they started having appliances in the store over there, I remember.
Yeah, well, they had a few appliances here, but they
Yeah.
got more over there because they had more room there. But yeah, they had appliances down here as well, and more employees over there. And then when we went retail is when Bill came, and Don Hamilton, whose son is now opening the Sears store in the mall up there.
Okay.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, he was there, and I just found this story out. Although I've been friends with those guys for a long time, they were both stationed at Moody Air Force Base in Valdosta, Georgia, and while there, they worked part-time for Sears. And Don was from Chattanooga, so when he got out of service, he went with them. Bill stayed in Valdosta and then eventually transferred up here because he liked Cleveland so well.
Someone online, too, wants to know if you have any early pictures from when the Allstate was at Sears here at the mall. Probably in the deep recesses.
Yeah, well, if I do, they would be in the deep recesses of the garage. I really don't remember any. I had 2 children. By the time when I came with Allstate, I had 3 children. I was 23 years old, and all I was thinking about was
Putting
selling
food on the table,
to buy some shoes and some groceries.
We do have something that, going back to the football, Harold Arp, I believe was his name, a few years ago, after the show one day came in and gave me a Midget League football souvenir program from 1968. And Ron's going to put some of the pictures up on the screen out of that. And that's one of the things that we always appreciate people sharing with us and giving them to us. And we appreciate that. And there was a lot of people in there that Ron and I knew their names because they had later gone to high school at Bradley with us or at Cleveland.
And some of them very well. Now, one other thing before we get into football, you spent a little time in politics, too. You was a county commissioner for how long?
16 years, but I don't usually broadcast that.
Yeah. And
Yeah, I was.
Aren't you proud of the progress in Bradley County with
I am.
these huge plants that we're getting
Oh,
down?
absolutely, and
I think
Bradley County is just grown by leaps and bounds. When I first came here, the tags had numbers like 21,
Right.
19,
Right.
17, and I think Bradley was 21.
Right.
And now, we're right on up there, one of the fastest growing cities in the.
I remember the 17s. We kept 17
I think we got
for
it
quite
to
a while.
12, and
13.
12 was the last time we used numbers, and we're probably bigger than that now because of some of the growths, whirlpools and Amazons and
And it's
waters
we've had
and-
growing pains.
Yeah.
It's hard to
Of
keep the
course.
schools not being full all the time when you have all these people moving in, which is a really nice
Who were
problem to
the
have.
county executives that you worked with?
Eddie Cartwright, Carl Collins was the outgoing,
Right.
but they called him then the
Quarterly court.
county judge or something like
they were
that.
quarterly court, and
Yeah.
then there was the county judge.
Yeah,
and-
and then when they went to county executive, and Eddie Cartwright was the county executive from 82 to 86, and that was when I first went into office. Donna Hubbard replaced him, and then it later became the county mayor
Right.
deal. And it's kind of strange you should mention that, but I was in Gulf Shores, my wife and I were last week, and went down to one of the places where the shrimp boats come in to get some fresh shrimp. Got to speaking to a gentleman there, and turned out he had been the county mayor in Dyersburg, and he knew Donna, and he and I had probably met at some of the meetings, but it's a small world.
Oh,
I
sure,
spent
yeah.
16 years on the county commission.
Well, the main reason we got here, we just wanted to get everybody introduced with you. Although most people here in town do know you. You sold everybody insurance, and
I
We
wish.
supported
I
you
wish.
for quite a few years.
Yeah,
Bill.
and I appreciate that. Matter
We're
of fact,
still all state people.
yeah, you helped to pay for some windows in that new house. I remember that.
Speaking of your house, there's dirt being moved next door. What's going on next door to your house?
we discussed that yesterday. Craig Runyon,
Yes.
is bought the property,
yeah.
and we discussed yesterday how cheap it would have been to pick your neighbors, and now you wish you had bought that lot, right?
I'm happy to have
Craig's a great guy.
Yeah,
I
Greg,
just saw
yeah.
that dirt being moved, and the historian in me I kept thinking I'd like to go walk around and look at that dirt to see if I see anything interesting, but I'm sure it's just dirt.
Craig wouldn't care. Come on and watch. It's kind of muddy right now, but
Yeah, a boy, isn't it?
Yeah.
All this rain we've had. One thing, too, that Ron and I saw a lot of things that we had never seen before this week. We tried to get out and get up into the mountains, and we went up to Newport and close to Dandridge, and we saw the Bush Bean Museum. Now, Bill, let me tell you, it's worth a little drive up there to see this. We thought, okay, what could be there? But when we got there, there's a nice little museum, very modernized, very clean. Everything was working in it. It was really interesting stuff. And then they show you this little movie that shows you how beans are made, which is an amazing process. They've got it down to an art form. But I would really like to recommend that our listeners go see that. And by chance, we got there and there were like 30 Viper cars sitting in the parking lot, which was pretty amazing. And they just happened to be passing through and stopped there and looked. But Bush Beans
It's
Museum.
in Chestnut Hill, Tennessee. It's between Dandridge and Newport. If you take 411 out of Gatlinburg, out of Sevierville, you go straight into the Bush Bean factory. And I didn't know there was a huge Bush Bean factory. I didn't
It's
know that's where it was
huge.
there,
I
but
didn't either.
it's in Chestnut Hill. That's basically all that's there. And then they have the museum. The original home place for the Bush family is right across the street. And
I did.
Oh, there's a cemetery up
And
on top
then-
of the hill.
and the way they got started was at Stokely's and Van Camp's was in Newport, and they rented them the machines to can beans for them in 1906 or 1907. So I didn't know that Van Camp's and Stokely's and Bush Beans are all Tennessee products.
I had no idea.
Well,
that.
see, that's you learn something every day.
Yeah,
And they had the best bologna sandwich in the cafe I ever
that's
had.
something too. They have a little cafe there, and Ron had a fried bologna sandwich. And if he'd said this bologna sandwich is good, one more time, I was going to punch him. But the food was all very good, and the little gift shop and the museum was well worth your drive up there.
It's amazing all of the day trips that you
Yes.
can make out of Cleveland to places like that. I've never been there. I've heard Newport, passed through it, but there's just dozens of places like that in.
And as you
Tennessee.
drive on that little curvy 2-lane road, you can just hear Thunder Road in your head because you know they ran moonshine up
Of
in
course,
there all the time.
the French Broad River runs right up through that
Yeah.
area there.
We had
which
never seen that
yeah.
river either.
Sure.
How did you get into Little League football? What started you into that?
Well, I was with Allstate, and a guy that worked part time there. We talked football, and he asked me would I help him, and I said, well, yeah, I would. I played high school football and played in the Army, and yeah, I'll help you. But I went out for about a week, helped him, and I didn't really. We clashed on our philosophies of how you should coach little boys. So I quit after about a week, and a couple of weeks later, Fuzz Callaway, Lloyd, was president of the league at the time, and he came to me, and some of the parents had told him there was another guy that had helped for a little bit, referring to me, and he asked me would I take them. They only had 2 more games, one in 3 or 4 days, and then another the next week. And so I said I would. Come to find out that the boys had not won a game, but they hadn't scored a touchdown all year. And so we put in 2 or 3 basic plays, and we got beat pretty good, got hammered, but we scored a touchdown. And those boys were so excited. Remember at that time we had from 8 to 11 or 12-year-old.
Right.
And they were just so excited. And the next week, we played somebody that was worse than us, and we won. And you would have thought it was Christmas. They were so happy and so excited, and I was happy and excited. I was 23. I was still really bouncing around, and so that's how I got started. And the next year I took the team over, and I coached them, and that was in the midgets. Then. Later on, I got out of it for a year or 2. Then I got back in with the juniors, and then later on I got out. Colonel Tucker got me back in over at the boys' club. So I wound up coaching, I guess, 13 to 14 years. But someone just simply asked me. That's how I got involved in it. Had a lot of fun, met a lot of young boys that are now grandfathers. But that was my start in little league football. I remembered some of my days back in Albany, the Little League baseball and basketball and football coaches, and they had big influence on me, and so I thought it was a good thing to do with your spare time.
I mentioned to you earlier that Sonny Hicks was my baseball coach.
Yeah.
My Little League baseball coach, and I turned out all right anyway, though. I don't want to put that. I always try to pick on Sonny a little bit, and he can give back, though, pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
There's so many people, I think, that the kids show up to learn football, but the lessons that they learn and the confidence that you build is priceless in those programs.
Oh, absolutely. Football is – I love football. I love all sports. I particularly love football. But it teaches you so much about teamwork, sacrifice, depending on the other guy, doing your best, not quitting. It teaches you all the things that you need to know to grow up to be a good man and a father and a contributor to society. So that's the importance of it. Most of those boys that played Little League ball, most of them didn't even, weren't good enough, big enough, fast enough to go on and even play high school ball, maybe. A lot of them did, and a lot of boys that we coached went on and played college ball. But those boys got the same lessons, even though they never played past being 13 or 14 years old.
Who organized the league? Was it a city managed, the city parks, or was it just an organization, or who really run the league?
Jim Brown gave me a little background on that. He told me they started the league in 1958, which was before I came here, and that the Optimist Club sponsored it for the first couple of years, and that they started out originally with 6 teams in the midgets, which was 8 to 12, and then the juniors, which was maybe 12, 13, 14, and they had weight limits. And when I came in 64. We had four teams, I believe, and then some other teams later on from out of town got involved in it. But we didn't furnish any equipment. We furnished game jersey and helmets, but that was it. So the boys had to buy their own equipment, and a lot of kids weren't able to play since their parents couldn't afford to get their equipment, and that was bad. So it was good when some of the other teams got involved in it that did. Later on, league, but how we raised the money was we would stand on Keith Street and hold out a bucket and go ask people for $10 or $20. And Joe Tyner at what was the name of the place he had downtown? Cooper's Bookstore.
Right.
He was a lifesaver. He would sell us footballs, jerseys, trophies, anything that we needed, and we always owed him money. And he'd say, "That's okay, boys, just pay me next year." So next year we'd try to raise more money and pay him a little bit more. But the whole time I was involved in it, we owed Joe money. And then later on, we got the city and county did get involved in it, and the city school system gave us that field. I don't know if you went to Arnold School or not, but you remember the National Guard Army
Right.
used to be
Yeah,
over there in Arnold School. There was a big field back there that
Right.
they didn't use, and they gave that field to us for $1 a year. Up to that time, we would play at Charleston, we would play at Bradley, we'd play some over at Cleveland High School, and if it rained, they wouldn't let us use the field. We'd have to cancel the game. And I remember the first year I coached, what was that baseball park? It was out on Keith and Raider Drive, Fulbright Park.
Fulbright
Park. It was a baseball field,
Right.
but they lined it off for football during football season. And if you remember, there was a big rock outcropping down, which was in one of the end zones. So if you scored a touchdown down there for the safety of the boys, we would go to the other end of the field to run the extra point because the pile of rocks was back there. So you're talking about operating on a shoestring. It operated on a shoestring, and Fuzz Calloway and a lot of those guys that started that thing, they deserve a lot of credit. Milton Palmer, Bill Talley, David Newman, Dickie Boyd, most of those guys you probably know. They were involved in it when I started in '64, and later on when we got some of the things I was telling you about, a fellow named Dan Littenberger became president, and he was with Mallory, and they moved in here from New York, and you can imagine somebody from New York coming into Cleveland.
Did you have to explain Mater to him?
Well, he made things happen. He went to the city and county commission and got them to kick in a little money, and he got Arnold Field. And Bill Carson, who was a local contractor, we managed to buy some wood and metal framing, built the bleachers with our help. All I did was turn a screwdriver or something. I couldn't do anything else. And the Rakestraw boys were all playing in that league, and their daddy, he built the concession stand. Somebody else donated us fencing at cost, and somebody else had a tractor, and they plowed it up, and we sowed it, and we cut the grass, and we would line the fields off and run the concession stand and raise money that way. So it was a labor of love for everybody that was in it. And, a lot of the coaches coached for a year or two because their boys were playing, and then they quit after that because it took a lot of time. But most everybody that was in it did it simply because they liked kids and they liked the things that football taught. And I know for myself, and I'm sure I speak for 99% of the coaches, for all the time and effort we put in it, we got a whole lot more out of it than what we put into it. So that was kind of the beginnings of the league. And as I say, I coached the Steelers for a couple of years, and Jimmy Gibson, who's co-pastor at First Baptist now, was my first quarterback. And Jimmy later on became a youth minister at First Baptist, and then he came back. And I told
Pretty good basketball player over at Cleveland too.
Yeah, Jimmy was a good athlete. I think he played football over there also. I told him at church, I said, Jimmy, what do I call you now that you're a preacher? He said, well, you just keep calling me Jimmy. And he would never call me Bill. And he'd call me Mr. Creech. And I said, You know, Jimmy, you got 10 kids, and you're a grown man. You're my preacher. This Mr. Creech stuff has got to go. And he tried, but he finally told me. He said, I just cannot call you Bill. He said, what if I call you Coach?
There you go.
I said, that'll work. And he still to this day calls me Coach.
Right. And,
As I look over this list from 1968 of the names, it'll be a lot of people that people recognize. Up in the bigger divisions, the coaches for the big Colts were Wendell Neely and John Clayton, and some of the players were Jim Heineman, Joe Smith, and Steve Walker, Mark Travis and Gordon Stevenson, Johnny Godfrey, Greg White, Mike Clayton, Neil Irwin, Greg Runyon, John Brown, Jim Brown, John Pasovich, I guess that's Pasovit, Mark Berger, Tim Lawson, Steve Walsh, Greg Steele, Terry Botts. I know Terry went on to be quite an athlete. Bob McIntyre, Wesley Brooking, Mitchell Brooking, Tommy Fale and Mitchell Wooden, and Tim Wattenbarger and Jim Beatty were some of the players there.
Yeah, there's a lot of names I've seen in there. Of course, Kitty Hooper,
The
Keith
Deal
McCamus,
Boys,
the Deal Boys,
Donnie and Jerry and Teddy.
Dennis Carroll. They're just names that if you followed
Robbie Thompson.
Sports around this area, that there's a lot of names in there that you would. Who all coached with you? I mean, who's some of the other coaches in the leagues?
Guys, I can't remember them all. Mike Smith coached.
Mm-hmm.
And he coached over at the Boys Club, and Buster Stewart, I remember, helped him.
Right.
Carl Montgomery and I coached together for a number of years,
Mm-hmm.
and Frank Jones and Alan King helped there. And like I said, Dickie Boyd, Palmer, and Bill Talley coached. And, Talley was just a great coach. He was such an inspiration.
Well, just
to those
an
guys.
amazing man, completely.
Absolutely. I don't know anybody that I admire more than Bill
and he
Talley.
was just really involved in all levels of sports.
Absolutely,
and,
he really was.
And for people who don't know who Bill Talley was, Bill basically had no arms, no legs, and was as good as athlete. I used to watch him in Little League Baseball run batting practice, infield practice for the guys. He would hit the grounder, the shortstop to be thrown to the first, and I'm sitting there going, I can't do the things he does. Fully healthy.
He's amazing,
and he's still going too.
Yeah, we've invited him several times. He's just not in this
He's
area
in
very
Texas.
much. Yeah,
He's in Texas. Yeah,
Harry Elmore
yeah.
and Lawrence Matthews, Don Guerin, Dan Littenberger. Of course, Sonny Hicks and Woody Abshire, that's been gone for a while now. Pat Lennon, Jack Fields, Powell Gibbs and Ray Steele, Ronald Rogers, Bobby Griffith, Jim Brown, Wendell Neely, John Clayton were some of the coaches in '68, which is just a labor of love, I'm sure.
Sure, absolutely.
Now, Pat
It
Lennon,
has to be exciting to go.
FBI agent Pat Lennon was
Yes,
FBI.
yes. He coached a little bit when his boys were
Right.
playing, you mentioned a while ago Kenny Hooper and Marty Walker,
Dennis
played,
Carroll.
and Chucky Ashley played.
Mitchell Gwynn.
Mitchell Gwynn, and Mitchell's older brother Jeff, who is a technician out at the hospital. And Chucky was Chucky, as I call him, was the fire chief. Alan Walsh, who is with the police department. You can just go through there and see citizens in Cleveland that started out in that league.
Sam Horner was listed as a player.
Yeah, Eric Evans played in that league, I believe, and Ronnie Moore, who's another fireman, and is he in Kent to you, by the way?
No.
Yeah. The Stevie Williams, and you mentioned Denny and Mark. Yeah, they were little old bitty guys, but
Danny
they were just
Wooden.
like
Danny Wooden.
Wooden. Yeah. We would go to Bradley and then Cleveland football games, and most of the players there had played in our league. And of course, Kenny went on and played at Ole Miss. And if we got time to tell you an interesting story about Kenny and why I think he went to Ole Miss. He was playing for me over at the Boys Club, and we got tickets to Vanderbilt when Steve and Rex were over there, Steve Sloan and Rex Dockery.
Right.
And we called them and said, we're boys club. We don't have money. We'd like to take these boys on a little trip. And he said, well, how about if we let you in free? I said, well, can't beat that. And so we went over there, and they said, bring the boys down to the dressing room after the game. Won't let them in the dressing room, but outside. And they played Tulane. I remember that. They won on a field goal in the last 7 or 8 seconds, so they were just jubilant. And here these little boys go over there, 12, 13, 14-year-olds. They go into Vanderbilt to hear these 6'5", 300-pound guys, and they're yelling and screaming, and everybody's happy, and their eyes are as big as saucers. And after Steve and Rex got through talking to the team, they came out, and we lined the boys up, and they went down the line, and I think this is what made them great coaches. They went down the line, and they shook hands with every one of those boys. And they told them, it wasn't too hard. If they saw a little round, rotund guy, you're probably a lineman, aren't you, son? And they say, yeah, I'm a tackle. I thought you were. If they saw a skinny boy, they might say, you in the backfield? Yes, sir, I'm in the backfield. And Kenny met Steve then, and they would make a little comment to each one of them. And if Kenny is listening, I wish he would answer this question to me. I always wonder because, Kenny was recruited heavily by Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, everybody. And he went to Ole Miss. And Oxford, Mississippi, and they were not very good at the time. But Steve Sloan was there and Rex. And I've often thought that what influence did that have on Kenny at 13 meeting Steve Sloan and him shaking his hand and telling him you look like a running back or something. I do believe, of course, Kenny was a good Christian boy. He was a good kid, never gave you any trouble, and it was yes sir, no sir all the time. He fit right into the Steve Sloan mold.
And just the fact is that these were former Bradley football players, Rex and Steve and Cleveland
How
boys.
Nice it was for him to come out and speak to those kids.
And,
we went down to Athens, Georgia to see who played, didn't we?
Herschel Walker. And
yeah.
He played against Kenny. They'd moved Kenny to a linebacker that day, and I remember Kenny hit Herschel Walker and was glad he got help.
Yeah,
he said, "I can take this on."
Yeah, that was
and it was kind of like Herschel Walker was just kind of carrying him down the field.
Yeah,
it was pretty interesting because we thought
Kenny's listening. Kenny, last time I talked to Kenny, we interviewed him on a sports show. I said his senior year he ran for 1,100 yards on 100 carries, 11 yard per carry average.
That was at Ole Miss or at Bradley?
No, that was at Bradley. That was his senior year here. And, he just never seen anybody wanted to run over people. So
I know. He loved it, didn't he?
He didn't want to run around anybody.
No, absolutely not.
And he was fast enough to run by anybody.
Yeah, he was.
But he just liked running over people.
He could just blow right by them, and I would, always.
So what did he play like as a child?
Well, the same way.
Okay.
The same way. He wanted to run over people, and that was good. And as you say, unless they reacted quickly, he'd run by them. But I would always try to get him to cut. And yes sir, as I'm going to, but next thing, boom, just run right over top of him.
And it's hard to argue with that.
I know, you can't argue with it at all. No.
Yeah, no. And then he. I think he has all girls now.
Yeah, he has a bunch of daughters.
Yeah, he gray-headed. He by the way, works with Marty Walker. You remember Marty played at Bradley, and Marty has a business over in Dayton now. And Marty played at Bradley, played defensive back, and he went to Carson Newman. And he was captain at Carson Newman, and they won the national championship in his senior year, I think, in their classification.
Right.
And my son Scott and I went over there to see him play because they had been friends. It must have been 40 below zero that night at Carson Newman, and he didn't get to play. He had hurt his hand or something. I sat there and froze to death. Didn't even get to see him play. But Marty was one of those guys that, Kenny had just tremendous talent and speed, and you can't teach speed. You just can't do that. Marty was not particularly fast or particularly big, but he had a heart that was 90% of his body, and he was smart.
Well, I remember watching Stevie Williams play when I was younger. He's a little older than I am. And he wasn't really that big, but he would hit people. He'd figure out a way to hit you and to get there. I always remember that about Stevie just being he would be a little back coming around there to block, and he'd take on the biggest guy out there.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, exactly. You know, that's all that guts and that heart they talk about.
Some people just natural. They may not be
exactly.
the greatest athlete. They just have an
You know
aptitude.
it when they show up.
To have an aptitude.
You know, you can see it's a different kind of talent.
Sure, they love the game. They love the game, and one of the most frustrating thing about coaching was you would see those boys that had the natural talent, but they didn't have to put out or try hard or whatever, and they never really developed their potential. You would see other guys that maybe didn't have as much talent, but just gave their all, and they just didn't have any athletic ability.
Need some of them.
Yeah.
You're listening to Whoop FM Old Town Cleveland here on 99.9, or you can go to the internet at www.whoopfm.com. You can call us here at 614-5553. We're talking to Bill Creech about Little League or Midget League football here in Bradley County. If you played or want to say something to your former coach here, or mention any of the other coaches or players, please give us a call. We got a call here. Good morning. You're listening to Old Town Cleveland.
Good morning, Ron and Deb. How you doing?
Hey, fine, Robert.
Hey, Robert.
I got a question for your guest there. I wonder if you ever had any problem with little boys getting up crying around. What you do for them?
You say there's no crying in football.
Well, I didn't hear it.
Did you have any kids that cried on you?
Oh yeah, sure. You get hurt sometimes. It's hard not to cry. Just give them encouragement and pat them on the head. I never demeaned anybody for crying or not wanting to play. You just encourage them and tell them to get up and try it again, or you would deal with it differently according to who the boy was and what kind of temperament he had. And most of the time, they'd get off to the side for a few seconds, and they'd be okay, and they'd be ready to go back in again.
I never did play Little League football, but I enjoy watching it. I advise a lot of people to go out and watch it because it's a friend of mine coaches Oklahoma Middle School, Ronnie Wire. He's a coach over there, I think, and I enjoy watching them.
Yeah, they need us support. A lot of times they go out there and they've been practicing hard all week, and the only ones that come up to see them play is maybe their parents or their grandparents. But we need to go out and support them as much as possible and cheer them on.
Yes, we do. And like I say, I never did play football, but I played baseball. But like I say, I enjoy watching all kinds of football. I'm a son of a football fanatic.
Well, join the crowd.
Okay.
But you're a Cleveland fan. That's the only thing there. I get you, Robert.
Well, that's kind of torn between because all my family went to Bradley. But like I say, I am a Cleveland fan, but I'm also a Bradley, Walker Riley, Polk County fan too. But when it comes to when they play each other, I'm a Cleveland fan.
Well, I'm the same way, except when they play Bradley, you know which way I'm going to go.
And I'm going to see you wear Cleveland because I'm going to buy you a hot dog or something when I see you.
Well, they do have good hot dogs over there, I will admit.
And Ron will eat a hot dog every now and then.
Yes, he will. Okay, it's good talking to you.
All right, thanks. Well, Bill, I got a couple, 2 or 3 questions for you. One is, did you ever get mad at a referee? Did you ever get thrown out?
Did I ever get thrown out of a game? No, and the referees. Honest, I later on was a referee also. They do a good job, and they're right there on top of the field, and they know the rules. And I sit up there at Bradley games with you, and I listen to people yell and scream and cuss the officials. And most of the time, they don't know what they're talking about. To tell you the truth, they don't know the rule, and of course they're prejudiced toward the home team, which we all are, and they call them blind and everything else. But when I first started refereeing, Shorty Jordan was one of the leaders, and taught a lot of the classes in it. And he told me, he said, Bill, said, listen, said, when you make a close call, he said, half the people there are going to think that you've got the eyes of an eagle, the wisdom of Solomon, and that you're just the smartest guy in the world and just a wonderful fellow. And said the other half of them there are going to think you a lying, conniving, cheating, blind, so on. Right. And he said, just go ahead and call it the way you see it. If you make a mistake, don't try to make another mistake to correct it. Just do the best that you can, call it honestly, and that was really good preparation for being in politics. Any decision you make, there's going to be those that like it and don't like it. I do remember one incident. I didn't get kicked out, but Larry Sells was calling a game, and Larry was a showman. He really exaggerated all his calls and everything. And one night he flagged us for having 12 men on the field, and I knew we didn't have 12 men on the field, and he just miscounted. And I yelled at him, and he yelled back at me, and I yelled at him again. And so he turned around in a really exaggerated manner, said 1, 2, 3, and he went down the line, 8, 9, 10. Oh, and he told me, he said, I'm a college graduate, and I majored in math. And he counted out. He got to 11, and he looked around, and there was not a 12th one there. And I yelled out at him. I said, I'm glad you didn't get a master's. And he flagged me for 15. That was the closest, though, I think that I ever came. But the referees do a good job. They really do.
If you had one kid who don't want to embarrass anybody, but who was the one kid that walked on that you said, bless his heart, he can't walk and chew bubble gum, and now but today, since people like you and other people showed some kind of interest in them and help them, made something really big of themselves. Do you have anybody that comes to mind, or 4 or 5 or 10 or 15 or 20?
There's so many of them, Ron. I couldn't name them all, but my greatest source of pride is some boy that came from the other side of the tracks that really didn't have any support or help, and they'll maybe they didn't go on and play. I mean, maybe they weren't a Kenny Hooper or Marty Walker or Chuck Ashley, or they didn't play any further than high school, or maybe not even further than Little League ball. But they'll come up to me, and they bald headed and maybe got a pot gut, and have the wife and a couple of kids with them, and they'll thank me for coaching them, and they'll introduce me to their kids, and talk to them, and and they may not be doctors and lawyers and successful people, but they're successful human beings. They are married, they're raising their kids, they're raising their grandkids, they're going to work every day, and in a job that probably doesn't pay a whole lot. And those are the ones that probably mean the most to me. Every one of them, I loved them all, but those are ones that I'm really, really proud of. And there's just too many of them to even mention. And you're right, a lot of them couldn't walk and chew gum at the same time, but that didn't make any difference as long as they came to practice every day and they tried and they did their best. And I always told them that I want to win. We're never going to practice to lose or anything, but as long as you give 100% and do your very best, we win. If we lose and we don't do our very best, then we're losers, and that's we're not going to do that. So if they got that lesson, and most of them did, that was what was so important about it.
Was there one who stuck out as the craziest, wildest, difficult,
or no, how about,
and not talk about Chuck Ashley?
He was the first one to come to mind.
First one to come to mind. Yeah.
Mitchell Gwynn, without a doubt. Mitchell Gwynn, without a doubt, was one. He would keep you laughing the whole time with some of his antics. And another boy, which you may or may not remember, was Bill Brown. His daddy was Judge Brown, and Bill left after college, but he was a red-headed guy.
I thought you meant Bill Brown, the attorney here. There's nothing funny about him at all.
No, he's all business. He's here. And I tell you another guy that you'll know real well because he probably works for you in radio is Doug Mizell.
Oh yes,
Doug played for me when I first started coaching, and he was one of those guys to get real excited and start slobbering at the mouth, and that's kind of you like.
He's still that way.
He still does that.
Yeah. Doug, matter of fact, comes in and matter of fact, he done our show for us last week while we were gone, and Doug's I think he went on and played fullback for Cleveland High School. Him and Alan Jones were the starting fullbacks, and they were the ones back when you were played at Cleveland. Basically, you handed the ball to somebody else and they ran it.
Yeah.
And basically, Doug and Allen ran the plays in back and forth.
All day, yeah. Well, in Cleveland High's offense back in those days, the fullback was just another guard.
Yes, that's right. And I
think my favorite sports story that we've heard here on Old Town Cleveland, and I can't recall, I believe the last name is Kyle, He said he was first string at Cleveland High School until they integrated, and he went to fifth string in one day.
That happened to a lot of boys.
I love that.
Denny Griffin.
Is that who that was? Denny Griffin.
Yeah.
We
He
love
said
that
I was
story.
first string, and now I'm
Who was
fifth
that
string.
now?
Denny Griffin.
Oh, Denny.
He said he hurt his finger at one tournament or something. He got his hand caught in the door, and the coach come down and asked him who he was.
He said, "Look, Coach, I need
He said,
to
who
know
are you?
Who are you?"
I want the players.
Oh,
So
my God.
yeah, he just hilarious at that. You know.
We had a good time of that show. I believe that was the Cleveland High reunion or the Arnold
Oh, yeah,
School
the
reunion, but we laughed the whole time.
Where did all the kids go to school at? I mean, did you have them just from all over the county, or just city kids, or what did you have?
Well, when I first started, it was a city league, and this was remember like 64, 65. There weren't any black players at the time, and a lot of, like say, boys couldn't afford to buy their equipment. So most of them probably at that time went to Stewart, North Cleveland, Oak Grove, some of the schools like that. Later on, when I went to the boys' club, most of those kids came from Blythe Bowers. I'm not sure what it was called then. I think maybe
just Blythe.
Yeah, Blythe Avenue. Yeah, and they came from the schools like that, and most of them, or a lot of them, lived in the housing projects, and they would walk to practice or ride their bicycles. I had an old El Camino truck, and if it was raining, I'd try to take them home. But I always tried when I was in the city league to get some boys from South Cleveland, or what y'all used to call it, Oakfield, or something like that. Try to get them up there because those boys from North Lee, they needed to know how those boys lived down in South Church Street.
Right. They need to know about it.
Exactly. And when I was down at the boys' club, I would try to get players that lived in there, like Kenny Hooper, Tim Henderson. Tim Henderson played for us down at the boys' club, and Marty, his daddy, was a preacher. We tried to get those boys down there too, again, to see how the other side lived, and it rubbed off on a lot of them. It really did. It was a great. It didn't make any difference where your daddy worked, or if you had a daddy, or what kind of clothes you had, or whatever. Once you put on those pants, the old saying, Debbie, excuse me, but everybody puts a jock strap on the same way, and
and gets it knocked off the same way.
Absolutely, yeah. And some of those old boys down there in Oakfield, they had some suppressed anger.
Well, they just had to take care of themselves.
I learned that at Oak Grove. Remember?
Yeah.
Did you? Yeah.
I got whipped in the woods there one day. Yeah.
But I always told children in the classroom when they'd be picking on somebody, I would say, now someday you're going to walk in and you're going to apply for a job, and you're going to look across the desk, and that person you're picking on today will be the person that's hiring, and what are they going to think about you? And I've had a couple people tell me that came true, is that somebody that maybe they weren't so nice to, or they started being nicer to them or treating them better, actually advanced them somehow in their life. And I said, well, you just do it because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Bill, this has been so much fun. I know that Ron, what were you saying about the Williams boys before we went on the air?
Oh, when we played in the elementary school league, which started about 66 or 67.
Which we'll talk more about that after the break.
Yeah, quick, that Mark and Denny played for North Lee. I played for Oak Grove. I was the nose tackle, and Denny was the center, and Mark was the quarterback. And if you stood both of them on top of each other's shoulders, I was still taller and bigger than them. And I had a good game that day because I tackled Mark and Denny all day long.
Just grab them both.
Yeah, they were. And, of course, now they're both great ball players and
great citizens.
I want to hear that other story, too, maybe after the break, about you learning about the
I
fighting
will tell
in the woods.
that. I will tell you that. I
the
learned,
lesson you learned in football is not to fight.
Yes, and then if you get beat up, you still have to run laps.
Yeah.
So that was the bad part. Hey, we'll be back in just a few minutes here on Old Town Cleveland.
It smelled like somebody's armpits.
We did this song here on our Midnight Storm record. It's one that was a eulogy, actually. These words were...
You are listening to WOOP-LP, Cleveland, Tennessee. WOOP FM is a broadcasting service of the Traditional Music Resource Center, and we play America's original music.
Check into checking the cash. We'll beat any rates that don't pay the match.
Check Into Cash gives you more money for your title and the lowest title loan rate anywhere. We'll beat any rate on a title loan, and we guarantee it. So you'll save money. If you already have a title loan, ask Check Into Cash about paying it off. So if you're short on cash, think Check Into Cash.
No credit check, no runaround. Check Into Cash won't slow you down.
Check Into Cash, your one-stop money shop for 20 years. Now offering payday loans without a check. Great service, convenience, and locations.
Check Into Cash. We'll beat any rates that don't pay the max. Oh, yeah. Check Into Cash is your money machine. Get on up and get down. Check Into Cash.
Bring proof of lower rate on similar title loan. Use payday advances responsibly. Visit checkintocash.com for the store nearest you. Debbie Moore, co-host of Whoop's Old Town Cleveland, has released a regional history book, Confederate Voices. The book is available at the Red Ribbon, the Museum Center at 5 Points, and at www.oldtowncleveland.com. And be sure to tune in every Saturday morning at 10 for Old Town Cleveland, right here on Whoop FM. Wheeler Technologies has moved. Visit them at their new location at 490 Grove Avenue Southwest next to Bradley Rentals. Same great folks, same great service with a better location to serve you. Call Wheeler Technologies for voice, data, and security needs at 664-TECH. That's 664-8324. And remember, depend on Wheeler Technologies for the current time and temperature every day at 476-1111. Tennessee Alarm Contractor C1750.
Did you know that local businesses produce more income, jobs, and taxes that stay in your local community than national chain stores do? For every $100 spent in a locally owned business, $45 stays in the local economy, while only $15 stay locally when you buy at a national chain store. When you buy from Mermaid Mattress, you are shopping local. Plus, when you buy direct from the factory, you get a better mattress at a better price, guaranteed. But only at Mermaid Mattress here in Cleveland. 1/2 mile off 25th Street on Georgetown Road, right here in beautiful Cleveland, Tennessee. Call 472-2486. Locally in Cleveland at Mermaid Mattress. Find out why Fro Daddy and Matador both sleep on a locally made mattress at Mermaid. You give them a call at 472-2486.
Mermaid Mattress Factory and Showroom.
The Village Bake Shop has been serving the sweet needs of folks in the area since 1961. Need a specialty cake? Well, all you need is a photo or just an idea, and Teresa at the Village Bake Shop will make sure you get that special cake for any occasion. I've enjoyed the Village Bake Shop for years and always got birthday cakes, wedding cakes, and more. Any cake for any special occasion from the Village Bake Shop is always fresh and delicious. And of course, the Village Bake Shop has all your other sweet cravings taken care of too. Plus their world-famous thumbprint cookies that are shipped all over the world. The Village Bake Shop, Village Green Town Center, right here in Cleveland. Phone 476-5179.
Welcome back to Old Town Cleveland here on Whoop FM 99.9. Or you can go to the internet at www.whoopfm.com. You can call us here at 614-5553. You can also go to our website and download the iPhone app or iPad app, and you can hear us all around the world. You can, what else can we do?
I don't know. Who's that a picture of you put up?
That is the Steelers 1969 champions, and that's Bill Creech on the back right-hand corner, and Mitchell Gwynn and Chuck Ashley's in that photo, and Keith McCamus is there also. And just let's get this call. Good morning, you're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Yeah, it's Jim Brown.
Jim.
How are you, Jim?
Fine, you?
I'm doing great.
Well, I just wondered if I could, add a few things to that football program.
Go right ahead, Jim.
You can say
You're
all
live
you
on
want.
the air.
All you want to say.
You can tell all the lies you want to.
We've had to listen to Bill Creech all morning long. Please help us.
Well, the league started in '58.
Mm-hmm.
Club, like Bill said a while ago, organized it. And that's when I got into it. I was assistant coach. T. Roy Jones and Sam Cheek had the team the first year. And then I took over in 59 and went to 78. Mm-hmm. But over the progress, we had 6 teams, like Bill said earlier. And then later on, that was 8 through 12-year-olds altogether with a 115-pound weight limit.
Mm-hmm.
And then a little later on, Bill Talley and I started letting some of the boys play. It didn't get to play during the ball game on Saturday nights because we, like Bill said, we were young. We wanted to win. So we would take these younger boys and let them play a game. That developed into the midget league, our midget division. So we had 12 teams at that time. And then, like Bill said, Fuzz Calloway or Lloyd, what you want to call him, and somebody else started doing what Bill Talley and I did, and that evolved into the Pee-wees, which was 8 and 10s, and then we had the midgets, which were 10, 11s, and then juniors we came up with them, which is what I coached, was 13, 14-year-olds. And so, it progressed there. At one time we had 18 teams. And but first bowl game we ever had and experience we ever had out-of-town team was we had the Optimus Bowl. And that was probably around 60, 61. And we had the team out of Milledgeville come in and play us. And I watched them warm up on the field, and I thought they were college kids out there. The helmets were painted silver, and they're all about the same height. And we were at a disadvantage. One of the advantages of our league was that we divided all the kids up amongst the 6 teams. But when you went to playing teams out of town, and I learned this when I went to Oak Ridge a few years later, that they already had their 3 divisions. And I always had the juniors, but I went up over 8 through 12s to play 11, 12-year-olds. And you can imagine what happened. But anyway, it like Bill said, I always started out with the idea of helping Bradley. But over the years, I decided, like Bill said earlier, the best thing about the league was kids that never got big enough to play high school ball got a chance to play organized football. And, and there's a lot of assets, like Bill said earlier. But I just thought I'd like to throw that in.
Jimmy, you remember when we took a couple of teams down to Atlanta and played a couple of teams that were in, maybe y'all played at Marietta Red Devils or whatever they were. They were the Pop Warner team that was a good. We went down there and took our boys, and we were kind of scraggly and tore up uniforms, and they came out in capes and 40 players on the team and 7 or 8 coaches. we realized we were in big time then.
Well, that brings to mind, I had a friend, that married a Cleveland girl that was coaching down there in Marietta later on. And at the time, we had about a $2,000 or $3,000 budget. They had a $15,000 or $20,000 budget, and he would start out with about 50 kids, and wind up with 35 in his junior division. And I'd start with maybe 25, and maybe if I was lucky, wind up with 20 at the end of the year. So whenever we went out of town to play somebody, we were at a complete disadvantage. I took some All-Stars to Gainesville to play. Neil Zimmerman, which was the first manager of the boys club here, he went down there. And so I arranged to take the All-Stars down there. And on Saturday morning, before our ball game, these coaches came in from Tampa and wanted to videotape the ball game. Now, that's how far advanced, they were ahead of us. And, whenever we went out of town, we were at a disadvantage. And then one year we took the All-Stars to Tampa. And we started getting off the bus, and the parents says, "Where's the rest of your players?" And I said, "Uh-oh." I looked down in the field, same story as with Milledgeville. The helmets, you see all the kids were about the same height. And we kicked off, then they run back there. They're 45. The second play was about 10. The next play was touchdown for them. So you can imagine, we just were never competitive out of town because the way we had ours set up, which I think was better because we separated them out. And I also played a team where they would play on a regular team, and then first of the year they picked their All-Stars, and they'd practice a day or two and play a game, and then they'd play with a regular team. So, even we had good ball players like you're talking about, Ronnie Moore and those boys. We couldn't compete. But it was made it worthwhile. The kids didn't get hurt. They got to have a trip and find out what it's like to play somebody else. But there's a lot of stories about the league, but I won't go into all of them. But anyway, that's some of the things about what the Cleveland Midget League was.
Jim, I got an important question. Who was the better coach, you or Bill?
Tell the truth now, Jim.
I'm afraid I intimidate myself, so I ain't going to
Jim and I not only worked together, but we were coaching against one another, and getting near the week that we were going to play each other, you can imagine all the conniving that was going on. My boys were hurt, and we weren't going to do this, and oh gosh, we were going to get killed, and we'd always come up with some kind of special, play for them, and they did for us. But it was always competitive, and we had a good time dealing with it. And Carl Montgomery was coaching at the time, and we'd plot, and we just had a lot of fun. We'd tell the boys, and look, I got to go back and work with this guy the rest of the year. We cannot get beat tonight. We just absolutely can't get beat.
Well, that's about the same thing that happened to me when I went to my other play. That guy that his wife was from Cleveland, he threatened them within an inch of their life. I found out later on that they were going to pay for it if we beat them. And, that was the kind of mentality they had. But, anyway, they had fun.
Well, Jim, we appreciate people like you and Bill who took all your time to give to these young men over the years. We really do appreciate you.
Well, I'm sure Bill's the same way I was. From August to November, we didn't do a whole lot of work. Because during the day, we was always thinking about what's going to happen that night at practice or what ball game's going to be like on Saturday. So, we didn't have much time to think about work.
That work gets right in the way of fun, doesn't it?
Yeah. But anyway, I'm sorry I interrupt you. But
no, we're glad you called, Jim. Thank you so much for calling. Good to hear from you.
Good to hear from you, Mr. Jim. Bye-bye, dear.
See you, Jim.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, I love our callers. I always do. All right, Ron, what lesson did you learn playing football?
I attended Oak Grove Elementary School, and they started the elementary football league here in 66, 67. I was a 7th grader, and that's when we went all through 8th grades. I played with Tobin McKenzie and Dwight Lowry and the Whitten brothers and the Whaley boys, and there's a lot of us out there. Dennis Botts, big basketball player.
Quite a number of athletes.
Oh yeah, good ball player.
And then there was Ron.
and then there was me. Yes, I was on the smaller side of that. You imagine playing against Tobe and Dwight and Dennis, and these were big kids, and I was a big kid, but they were bigger than me. Good morning, you're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Yeah.
Hello, go ahead.
This is Ken Inslee.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing pretty fine, Ron. I just wanted to call in and
turn your radio down a little bit there, Kent.
And just wanted to say how good it is to talk with Bill Creech and to hear Jim's voice again.
Well,
hey, Ken, how you doing, buddy?
We all work together at Sears and Moose Montgomery.
We're losing you, Kent.
Kent, did you have any good stories on Bill or Jim?
Hey, I'll tell you what.
Don't tell everything you know now, Kent.
They were the top of the notch,
I've got a picture of the '69 Steeler championship team up on the screen right now, and Bill Creech had hair and it was black. I'd never seen him like that before myself.
Oh, I've seen him like that many a day.
Who's that other coach up there, Bill? Do you remember him?
Carl Montgomery
that is
and Frank Jones.
Okay.
Frank Jones, Frank and I were trying to figure out who Frank was. Chuck knew it was Frank, but we didn't know it was Jones.
Yeah, he lives up in Athens now, works for the county road department, I believe.
Well, Kent, do you have any good stories about what happened to you?
Well, I just moved on from Sears, moved to Chattanooga, and just happened to have a wreck in a Bronco back in '82 and left me in a wheelchair ever since. But I enjoy the show, and it was real good hearing Jim and just seeing Bill talking.
Yeah, we enjoy you on Facebook there. You make a lot of good comments to our pictures we post.
Yeah.
Well, it's something that I like, and we really get back into history. This cyberspace has really took us to a new level.
Yeah, I want to thank Kent too on Facebook. I've been battling cancer for a couple of years, and Kent, with his physical problems, he's been a real encouragement to me on Facebook about how to deal with it, and I appreciate your thoughts and prayers, Kent.
You're more than welcome. I mean, I'm going to get off and let someone else call in. Y'all have a great weekend.
Thanks, Kent.
Thanks, Kent.
See you
Bye-bye.
on Facebook. All right, Ron, finish your...
Well, we had started those football leagues, and everybody calling now. We got woke them up. Good morning, you're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Hello, Ron, Debbie.
Hey, Miss Ella, where you been?
Where have I been? Yeah. Just laying around.
Laying around.
So what's going on?
Oh, not much. I just go be staying home. I went out last night, so I had fun.
Did you get drunk last night?
No, I don't never get drunk.
You didn't drink a thing then?
Oh, yeah, I drank a couple.
Okay, where'd you go last night?
Pokies.
Pokies, all right. Who was playing there last night?
Collins Brothers, but they wasn't much good. I couldn't hardly dance with their music. Before, it's been good, but boy, I said it was.
You need to drink him one more beer.
No, not no more. 2 or 3 is my limit. I don't drink no more because I don't want to get sick.
Is that 2 or 3 per hour?
No.
Well, we thought you'd forgot us there. You hadn't called us all day.
Well, I've been having trouble with this phone. I got to get me another phone.
It could be the operator.
No, it goes mute. I try to call out. Nobody can hear me, and I can't talk to them. And it says, you don't have no minutes. And I just put minutes on this phone last Friday. So I know I got minutes.
Well, thanks for calling.
See you, Miss Ella.
All right, bye-bye.
Speaking of pokies, We were up there yesterday, and they have just about the best hamburger around at lunch.
They do have a good lunch.
They have a
yeah.
really good lunch.
They do. Yeah,
and, and a reasonable price too. You know, for a meat and three. And I had a salad.
Yeah,
well,
he's been really good.
They're good, and
there's a few lies told up there.
Yeah, they could go up there and get that lunch. That's probably best value in town.
It sure is. Anyway, at Oak Grove, we lived. It was an interesting area. We lived near the city dump, and then we had the people lived in the suburban kids, and so the kids that lived around the dump and the kids who from suburbia. It's that basic story from right, wrong side of the tracks, right part of the tracks, wrong part of the tracks, and
there was tension.
There was always tension, and we tend to criticize, and we learn a lesson not to, and we learned a valuable lesson. At play period, you did not go into the woods at Oak Grove Elementary School. That was off limit. It was part of the school property, but you did not go into the woods. Well, the football team come out and are ready to practice, and some of the kids who lived across the tracks or around the dump area, when it was over there off Fair Street, I guess it is, or back in there.
I remember that.
They were up in the woods, so the football team went over there, and being the big, strong football team, we told them that they could not be in the woods. And they told us, well, what are you going to do about it? Well, we struck our little poses with our fist up in the air like we were going to box them, and that first kid hit me upside the head with a stick. Then I got hit with a rock, and they stomped on me, and the whole team got whipped pretty good, and Coach Beatty come out and caught us fighting. And we explained that they cheated, that we had put our fist up and they hit us with sticks. And so we're bleeding and hurting, and we ran laps. And, of course, those kids just had to go back into school. And I'm going, life's not fair. And so I learned that fighting is not one of those things, you know, that you – and
I always laugh at that story.
There is no such thing as a fair fight, you know, right?
No such
like in a knife fight, you know, there's no rules, you know.
No, that's right. Yeah, don't bring a knife to a gunfight.
This is right. I always love that story.
Well, I learned my lesson too well. Good morning, you're live on Old Town Cleveland.
You didn't give me time to say something.
Well, say something.
Yeah. Well, you know, how long have I been Mama Whoop, Ron?
Oh, I know for 4 years, since we've been here for 4 years.
Yeah. Now somebody else is trying to take that spot.
Uh-oh. Who?
They got some girl Mark had in there called her Mama Whoop. And she is not Mama Whoop. She ain't won no trophy. And I had everybody call in, and I still got my trophy. And I told Mark he better shut up because there is no other Mama Whoop.
Well, we're just going to launch an investigation here.
Yeah, I know it. But they're going to have to get somebody to call in for them and win a trophy just like I did, right?
That's right.
Yeah. I just wanted to say that.
All right. Well, we need to get that straightened out. I think, is Chief Snyder, I wonder if he's up today. I think I give Chief Snyder a call here. Bill, now I've got to ask this question.
Did you hang up on Miss Ella?
Yes, she's gone.
By Miss Ella.
She's already gone. There is always in Little League sports or in high school sports, you know, you talked about us being up in the stands yelling, and I'm guilty as the rest of them. You ever get yelled at by a parent? Well, let's get this call first here. Good morning, you're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Good morning.
Hey, boy, I'm just thinking about you.
I bet you were.
Yeah, go ahead.
How about telling everybody what you said when the coach asked you if you could pass the ball just before we both decided? So I don't know if you talked about it or not, but
no, I said I'm not sure I can pass it. I'm not even sure I can swallow it.
There you go. That's when the coaching you was in the wrong spot.
I just asked Bill about did he ever get yelled at by a parent or something like that, and I won't mention any names, but someone that you and I know got thrown out of the little football league, didn't he? Sort of expelled for life.
Yeah, tried to block that from memory, but yeah, there was an unfortunate incident. I think it was. I don't.
It wasn't John. Somebody John and I know, but they were told never to come back to organized football in the city of Cleveland.
I'm not sure if it was just local organized football or all the organized football. It reminds me of that line out of "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" Said, was he just thrown out of the one Woolsworth, or was it all of them?
Yeah, that's right, John.
So this may went on past the city limits and into other counties?
It did have. It kind of become an urban legend for a while there. I thought it had died down a little bit, but some of us remember.
Mm-hmm.
I know most people may not know, but Ron and I just had this bright idea that being big guys, maybe football would be just the thing. And I remember I was going to Big Springs at the time and went over to Bradley all during the summer and worked out. And kind of felt a little good about myself, but not real good because I found out that I wasn't really good at any of it. But did find out about cheerleaders and majorettes and with Diane Ball and Lane Ball and all those. We had some good-looking ones, so we made the executive decision to join the band as well.
Didn't get hurt near as much, did we?
You know, I don't thought my
Hey, so for the next 3 years, those guys out there getting their blocks knocked off, we got to stand around the sidelines with, and what was her sister's name? We had Lane Ball and
Diane and Elaine.
Ann and Lane, and of course, Cheryl Torbett in the band. She wasn't hard to look at all. I could go ahead and name names, but there's probably husbands listening.
Probably so. And your wife may be listening.
No, my wife's at work right now.
And your wife was in kindergarten at that time, I might mention.
When I was in high school, my wife was a majorette, and I was on the football team, and oftentimes I'd look up there in the stands, and the smart guys were up there under the blankets, with their girlfriends holding hands, and us dummies was out there getting knocked around and getting mud all in your mouth. And I thought, well, are we smart, or what's the deal here? But I think they probably had the right ideas, or you and Ron, y'all made the right decision.
Well, let me ask that, John. Did you had to deal with Bill Creech when he was the county commissioner?
Oh yeah.
Any good stories?
Oh, well, unfortunately, I was there during a lot of them, but I tell you, Bill was one of my favorite county commissioners. He actually had a little bit of sense. You could talk to him.
A little bit?
Not a whole lot, but
about the Civil War history, so we got along really good.
Yeah, we did. John was chief deputy at the time, and he'd always come to commission. He was reasonable. You could talk to him, and everybody, be it the sheriff's department, road department, or whatever, they all had legitimate needs, and they all, of course, thought that their arm of government was most important, and that was just natural. But John, he understood that we only had limited dollars, and had a lot of people with that needed them and deserved them. But I appreciated him because he always came up with facts and figures and could justify what he was asking for, and you could discuss things with him.
Hey, John, I remember you playing football in the Pig Bowl.
Yeah.
And you were the first person to get muddy.
I was the first person officially injured, and unfortunately, it was during practice, and it wasn't during the game.
I just remember you running out on the field and tripping and falling down and getting muddy.
Yeah, those things happen. It seems like, though, most of my life, any serious injuries that I've ever had, Ron was always close by. We were practicing. We were bound and determined we were going to whip McMinn County's butt in that first Pig Bowl. So, we all were not in the shape we thought we were. And
that's why you had to recruit some new officers real fast.
Oh yeah, we did, and I guess Ron thought maybe we would learn more if we went full throttle instead of quarter speed, which is what we should have been doing. We should have been just sitting around watching football films. But I hit a slick spot, and it'd been raining, and Ron caught me just right in the chest, and there for about, well, I'm not sure how long a guy my size can levitate, but it seemed like a long time that I was midair, and when I come down, I broke that arm clean in two. Played the game, though, played the pig bowl. You got to give me that. That cast I was wearing.
He taped a 2x4 to his arm and played the game.
I put a board down it, and then I put a layer of foam rubber around it, then duct tape all over that. And let me tell you, he hit a guy upside the head with that. He felt it. I knocked a few people out coming through the line. My main job was just stand up, make them run around me by the time they got around me.
Hey, John, I was just wondering, what did you and Ron run the 100-yard dash in? Do you remember? Was it measured in hours or days?
We don't know yet.
It was less than a day, I'm pretty sure. We were always finished before lunch. Guys, it's been good. I've got 2 grandkids that are just now crawling out of bed. They had a slumber party at 3 this morning, so it's time for me to make breakfast.
Thanks, John.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye.
John in the Pig Bowl. Also, we were playing.
I do have a movie of that, by the way.
The Athens Police Department, actually, and Bull Matthews was the big stud they had up there. And he was playing defensive end, and John was our offensive tackle. And he was beating John all day, and Alan Walsh was one of our quarterbacks, and him and Mike Smith, So we brought Mike's dead duck pass out of retirement. But they kept saying, John, you've got to stop this guy. So the next play up there, John went up there, and they went down, and John reached up and grabbed Bull Matthews by the face mask and slammed his face into the mud. Well, we got a 15-yard penalty. And so Bull wasn't too happy with it. So Bull come up there again. He's snorting and thing like that. And John grabbed his face mask, slammed him down into the ground again. Another 15-yard penalty. And then Bull went wide away from John, and we started getting good plays for the night.
More than one way to skin a cat, isn't it?
Yeah.
John said,
You took him 2 times to learn that.
John says, you told me to stop him.
Yeah, I did it. That's funny.
But now, did you ever get the parents? I always thought any kind of coaching job, dealing with the parents is the hardest part of the whole game.
I used to kind of get embarrassed sometimes going out to that baseball park and listening to those parents out there. And, parents, bless their hearts, a lot of times they're trying to relive their high school days or whatever through their children, and they're much too demanding on them, and they're yelling and carrying on. And I've often thought that maybe they should just borrow the parents from the game sometime. But I always had a little routine at the first of the year. I'd talk to the boys about what I expected of them and what they could expect of me. And I always told the parents the same thing. I'm out here. I'm doing this. Paid not real good, but I'm going to do the best I can with your kids, and I'm just not going to tolerate any interference. If you want to help me, that's fine, but other than that, stay out of the way. So maybe it was that. I don't know. I never really had any problem. One time we were playing in Meggetts County, and tough bunch over there, and one of the fathers was up there, and he was not from our section of the country. And he was yelling about if we would just throw a pass on the right flank or something, some silly something. We'd win the game. I didn't know what was wrong with us. We were just dumb for not doing that. And I listened to that first half. And halftime, I motioned him out of the stands, and we walked around to the back, and I had a word or two with him because he was really loud. And I guess the fact that maybe I was twice as big as he was had something to do with it. But I never heard a word from him after that. But that's the only conflict I ever recall.
I think nowadays we want all the kids to feel like winners, and we don't keep score, and everybody gets to, it's all too even field, and I don't think the kids ever experience that. Get yourself up and try it again, and I think it's a little bit harder, and then the parents, want them to walk away feeling good about everything, and that doesn't always work either.
It does. I had, expanding a little further on that, I had several boys that they just didn't want to play football.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with that. There's
Right.
absolutely nothing wrong with not wanting to play football. And you need to want to play because it's a hard game. You get popped around and knocked around, and if you don't like it, you don't need to play. There's nothing wrong about that whatsoever. I remember in high school, a super athlete, parents were driving into play, and the boy just hated it. And I remember him telling me, and I was a freshman, he was maybe a junior, and he was almost in tears talking about it.
Get your phone here.
I think that's
Good
still
morning,
goes on
live on
today.
Old Town Cleveland.
Hey, Ron.
Hey, Red.
You're talking about football. How come you quit good sports?
I haven't quit. I just don't have time to come right now.
I haven't heard you on there in a long time.
I haven't been on there in about 6 months.
He'll be back when high school football starts back up.
About this football thing and about fighting. Football game's no good unless there's 2 or 3 fights.
That's right, Red.
Well, you talking about in the stands or out on the field?
In the stands.
Oh, yeah. Well, I figure you'd be one of those that could get loud in the stands.
Get everybody mad.
Well, Red, we've been doing this little documentary on, trying to get it started on the racetrack, and what we found out so far is 97% of the fans show up to see a wreck.
Well, that's what I watch for.
Yeah.
And then the fight after the race.
Yeah.
I sat and watch a race for 6 hours just to get to see a good wreck.
There you go.
Yeah.
But you will be back on there when the football starts.
I probably will be back, yes.
Okay, I was just wondering.
All righty.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
You know, at some point in time, you just have to decide when you have time to spend on what.
Yeah, you were saying about the kid that's telling you.
Yeah, but and I was like a freshman, and he was starting on the varsity, and I thought, golly, if I could just be as good as he was, I'd just be thrilled to death. But I didn't understand it because I was 14 years old or however old I was freshman. But I could feel his heart and his pain that he was going through, even though I didn't really understand it. Of course, as I got adult, I did. But I had 2 or 3 dads that the boys were just absolutely
not football
miserable.
players.
They did not want to be out there, and they and they were not getting anything out of it. I was spending time with them that they just didn't want to play. So I talked to 2 or 3 of the dads, and explained to them in a kindest way as I could that your son doesn't really want to play football. Maybe he will later on, but I didn't play in high school and I missed it so much. As well, you had your choice and he needs his choice. If he wants to play, it needs to be his decision. But not trying to tell you how to raise your child, but I think you're making a mistake forcing him because he will never want to play. And I did that 2 or 3 parents.
Yeah, you have to. Our son played football, tried it for a while, but we decided maybe that wasn't his sport when he grabbed somebody and pinned them in the end zone. Or what was it he did? It was kind of funny because he'd always been a wrestler.
He wanted, he was the defensive tackle in the first game in middle school he got in. He wasn't good. But anyway,
well, that's where you learn.
Yeah, but that was what he was there for. And basically, I wanted him just to be in shape. He was a big, chunky kid, and we wanted him to get in shape. The only reason.
Which he did.
And the ball snapped, and he drove that offensive tackle clean off the field and drove him off the field onto the sidelines. I said, that's great if you had been the offensive tackle. But the defensive tackle supposed to try to catch the ball carries. Just like
they didn't understand the rules.
He was holding him to the ground. I'm thinking.
He played basketball when he was younger, and he was a foot taller than everybody when he was a big
looked like
kid.
Shaquille O'Neal when he was 5.
If you could just learn to stand underneath there and rebound.
Yeah.
And you shoot the ball back. And I said, now, you sit there and rebound. We talked all the way up to the game. And just as we got there and I turned off the key, he looked at me and says, I got one question, Dad. What's that? He said, what's rebound? So
We've been yelling, rebound, Daddy.
But, and also, I always like to tell him, Will, he picked the hardest sport, I think, in the world to do was wrestling. And we told him that we wanted him to do a sport to stay in shape, to pick one. So he picked wrestling. And I said, son, that is one of the hardest sports out there. And he said, well, it's the only sport you can lay down in. So I thought he had missed the point somewhere along the way. But, of course, he talking about Coach Logston, he went and wrestled there for 3 years, got hurt his senior year, still stayed on the team. But never was a starter there, but won a lot of matches in his JV because he was wrestling behind state champion after state champion.
Absolutely.
He said he was the wrestling dummy for the state champions is what he was.
He
But
started
good.
there as a freshman at 240 pounds. End of his freshman year, he weighed 171, graduated weighing 200 pounds, and still got arms on him like the size of a horse. But
we were talking the while ago about you being on the county commission. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to go up to Charleston and see their new Hiwassee Heritage Center. Please go up there. You will be so excited. It's right across from the football field in the bank. Mm-hmm. And the Historical Society up there in a period of about 7 years had a dream of having some kind of center there that visitors could come through and find out about the area. And they have bought that building. Over $100,000 they raised. They have it open with one part-time employee from the
Chamber.
Thank you, the Chamber of Commerce, and everybody else is volunteers, including history majors from the colleges, local colleges. But you need to go up there and see what they have done. It is just an amazing little museum, and I think I'd try to call before I go because I know they're not open like 50 hours a week or anything, but they're open most days. I don't think they're open on Sundays yet. But it's good. The panels were done by someone from MTSU that volunteered. She did her graduate work here and did the panels, and MTSU helped a lot, not because Bradley County was asking for a handout, but they asked for help. And because they were working so hard and raising so much money, we got hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of work donated. Go by there and visit it.
Yeah, I tend to do that. I haven't been up there. The lady, I can't recall her name, runs the antique shop up there.
Faye Calloway.
Yeah, right. She was the driving force.
She sure was.
And
she'd tell me what she had in mind, and I'd think, bless your heart, you'll never get a heritage center up there. And it didn't take her but about 5 years. And there's other things that they want to do. They want to do a river walk and put back some of the sites up there to see.
Yeah, that's good. Going back real to what Ron was alluding to a while ago, and your son and you're advising to pick one sport. Parents a lot of time make mistakes about they want their son to be a doctor or their daughter to be a debutante or whatever, and they push them in that direction. Intentions are good, and I was talking about those guys that son didn't want to play that I talked to him about, but one big mistake that I was counseling others that I would undo if I could was that my son Scott, who you know, when I was coaching, he was in midget, but when he got up into the junior league, here I would go out and work with these other kids, and I would have a lot of patience with them. But when Scott and I would get out in the backyard and play basketball or throw football or whatever, for some reason or other, my patience went out the window. I don't know why, but it did. I guess it's because he was my son, and I was a lot harder on him than I was on.
I think that's natural, and not.
It is, and when he went into the junior program, he actually was in another team, but they said, since he's your son, if you want to play for him, and we thought about it, and I remembered so many times where coaches would come out to coach their son, and they would maybe show preference to them. And the other players, the fans, he's only playing because he's his son. And I thought, you know what, I don't think I'll be fair to Scott. I think I'll be too hard on him. And for him to play the position he wants to play, he's going to have to be head and shoulders above his competition, and that's not fair to him, and he's going to feel the pressure. And Carol and I talked about it, and I thought, I really miss that, having that quality time that I would have had those 2 years, but we finally made a decision it'd be best to let him play with somebody else. And going back, if I could change one thing in all that time, I would change that. I would play for him, but I would hope that I was the adult that I should be able to deal with that. And I think I could have, but I was fearful that I was just going to be too hard on it. But I probably made a mistake in that because I missed a lot of time that I could have been spending with him because I'm out there coaching and he's playing somewhere else, and I missed some of his games and stuff, and I really regret that. So
it's hard to hindsight's the best side.
Absolutely.
He turned out pretty good though.
Yeah.
Yeah, in spite of me. That was because of his mother.
Did Chris White ever play in this league?
I think Chris probably did. I don't remember.
He may have played in the school leagues because he would have been. It would have been
Well,
pretty
the school
well.
league had already been over, but the county football league didn't last a long time, did it?
Well, when
we went
grammar
from the-
schools
yeah.
started, they took a lot of our players because they gave had equipment and such. Then the boys club, they started having a team, and to begin with, Eddie Cartwright and Zimmerman, who you mentioned earlier, they coached him, and they had a traveling squad, and they weren't in the league, but later on they came in. They furnished equipment. North Cleveland Church of God, Cleveland Community Center, 2 or 3 other teams came in, and it just kept. There was just so many boys that you could play, and they went from, I think Jim did maybe 6 or 8 teams. They finally wound up with just one team. They only had enough players left just to have one team, and then that kind of faded away. But they still have the little guys, the peewees and the midgets up to the 10 or 11-year-olds. But the boys that are starting to go into junior high, which is the boys that we coach primarily, they kind of filtered away, and there just wasn't enough players to go around, and it stopped. When it stopped, I actually don't know.
I don't.
I think Chris probably played. I know he played when he was at
I
Truett.
think he played at boys club, if I'm not mistaken.
He may have.
Yeah.
I don't know. I remember Chris. My children all went to Bradley, but I remember when I first started officiating, I was all gung ho and could still run a little bit, and he started to roll out one way, and here at that particular time I was supposed to follow behind him, and I'm going full speed that way, and all of a sudden he reverses and comes the other way. and he was a good athlete.
Yes.
He was fast, and I'm going full speed. And I'm going to run. I'm going to tackle him almost, And I just got down as low as I could, and he was so athletic that he jumped over me. And I'm so glad he did, because it would have been so embarrassing for the official to have tackled him in the backfield. I want to tell you another quick story before I forget it, too, about, this fellow, Dwayne Morrow.
Yes, I know Dwayne.
Yeah, Dwayne. Dwayne was playing for me, and we went down to Georgia somewhere to play, and we were staying in a motel. And he got one of those burns on his hip, those cherry-like burns.
Yes.
Not deep, but they really hurt. And after the game, I knew I had to clean the dirt and everything out of it. And I thought I had some peroxide, but the peroxide was gone, and all I had was alcohol. So I swabbed that thing down with alcohol and got him going good. But later on during the night, I got a call from the front office, and they said, look, you're going to have to go down to room 17 and do something. Those boys down there, we had like 4 boys to a room. You're going to have to go down there. They're getting a little rowdy. So I started heading down to that room, and Dwayne was in that room. I don't remember who else he was in there with, but I looked up, and here was his mother coming. Apparently she had gotten word as well. And I got out of her way because she had that look in her eye, and there was nothing going to stop her. And I said, well, I'm just going to let her handle this. So I just kind of followed behind, and she was like Clint Eastwood. She kicked that door in. And there those boys were in there in their underwear and their jogging short, bouncing from one bed to the other. And she caught Dwayne in midair.
As only a mother can do.
And for all you people who bank at United Citizens Bank, is that where he's at now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, just make sure you tell him that Monday morning. Good morning. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Yeah, this T. Bandy.
Hey, T.
Hey, T. I just wrote your name down, buddy.
You did?
Yeah, because I was going to mention that you're getting you some new knees this week.
I'm going to have to go on 5:30 Monday morning.
Well, we'll be thinking about you.
But I got a fish truck coming on my daughter's birthday.
What is that?
July the 13th.
July the 13th?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so people can go ahead and place orders now?
Yeah, people can call probably 310-6918.
310-6918 and order what fish they need. How'd your June 1st fish truck go?
It went good.
Well, good. Good.
I appreciate you doing that.
Well, you're welcome. I'm just glad it didn't snow or become a monsoon.
I had a good day.
It rained so hard one week, Bill, when they had the fish truck at the co-op, I thought the fish were all going to drown.
Yeah, no, they didn't have no carp these grass-eating carbs, so I'm having to reorder all lamb. I had 48 of them sold.
Oh, okay.
But July the 13th at 11 till 12.
At the co-op.
At Bradley Farmers Co-op.
All righty. Thanks, T, and best wishes, buddy.
You noticed I stole your chime, didn't you?
No, I didn't.
I did.
Oh, the big one down by the pool?
Yeah.
Are you going to fix it for me?
Yeah, that's what I got it for.
Well, I appreciate it.
I bought some new cord. I'm going to fix it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I always love to hear my chimes ring in the wind, and probably sometime during the winter, one of the strings broke, and it wasn't ringing too well anymore.
Bill, let me ask you. Let me remind everybody that we got Bill Creech here. We've been talking about Cleveland Midget Football League and Little League football, midget football, boys club, whatever.
The Village Mall, which I really enjoyed that discussion.
And you can call us here at 614-5553. We got a few more minutes left, and I wanted to thank Bill here. But Bill, being a county commissioner, being involved in sports, occasionally we have asked our schools and asked for more money to run sports, and these Little League teams ask for money. What's your opinion about how important it is to a community, or not important? You tell me which one you think is, to have these sports leagues and to spend a few of our tax dollars towards this type of stuff.
Well, I think it's very important because, if you don't have those boys and girls out there playing softball, baseball, football, they're going to be throwing rocks at somebody or maybe doing some things that they shouldn't be doing. They learn a lot of character. It's a community comes around them. If you go out to Hopewell or any of the ballparks and you see all the families that are there, it puts them together. They make sacrifices to get their kids to practice. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful program, and I realize that dollars are limited, but absolutely, I think that's an important part of government. I'm not saying they should have the very best and covered domes and everything, but yes, we certainly need to support youth programs.
Well, Chief Trotter here in the 30s started what he called the Knot Hole Gang. And he raised money and put uniforms on kids, and it was kids in neighborhoods who they could not keep out of trouble because they had too much energy and too much time on their hands. And I've had a lot of people say that was a turning point in their life, that when they had something useful to do, and then they could go on to high school and play sports. And we have to admit it, that high school does keep a lot of kids. Sports keeps a lot of kids in high school.
Absolutely does. And put it in a good word from Mike Smith, who said he'd come if I'd come, and then he threw me under the bus and he didn't show up. but
and
Mike,
everyone can quote Bill on that.
Absolutely. Mike coached for a number of years and did a really, really good job. And when he was on the commission, he was probably one of the biggest advocates for sports of anybody on the commission. He was always wanting to build another park or do and they were all really good projects, and he really puts those really strong. If we got a moment, I'd like to have one more football story that I thought was kind of funny. We were playing, and you mentioned the Williams boys. They were playing on this other team, and we were playing the last game of the year, and we were tied with this team for the league. And back, you remember back in the day, you had ties. They were not playoff systems like they are now. And we got down, and those Williams boys were just eating our lunch the last couple of minutes, and they went 80 yards and scored. And score was 14-13. I remember that. And 10 seconds to go, and I called my last time out, and I got the team around me, and I said, "Boys, did you remember we started in August, and it was hot, and y'all have run and done sit-ups and push-ups and done all this stuff, and we played all year long. We've undefeated. We got one more play, 2.5 yards, and we're the champions. Don't you want that? Can you reach down there and get that last bit of inspiration and encourage and go out and stop them 2.5 yards? I give them my best New Rockney talk I could give them, and they were all fired up. Yeah, we can do it. Well, one of the daddies was standing on the sideline with me, and he didn't mean any harm, but he said, and remember, even if we don't stop them, we'll be tied for the league championship. And I thought, oh man, that wasn't what I wanted them to hear. So I remembered one of my coaches sometime in the past, probably a high school coach, in a similar situation, said, "A tie is like kissing your sister." And I remembered that. It wasn't original at all, but I remember that, and I said, I had to do something. And I said, "A tie is like kissing your sister." And there was a moment of silence, and one of the boys says, "Kissing your sister?" Ugh. And then 3 or 4 more of them said, "Ugh." We went out there and we nailed them at the line of scrimmage. We won the game, and we were the league champions. So.
Yeah.
So kissing your sister was the motivation.
Whatever motivation it takes at that time.
Yeah. You just have to assess the age of the participants and give them something to go yuck about.
Bill, we talked earlier about you being on the county commission, and usually anytime we get, I've asked Eddie Cartwright this before, and I asked Mike Smith, what one vote over your 16 years, I believe it was, did you take that really was you're most proud of? Something that happened in Bradley County because of your vote. Have you ever thought about that?
Well, I told one of the old-time politicians around town, and I won't say who it was, but I was real disappointed about it seems like in politics you take 1 step forward and 2 steps backwards. I was just real frustrated with it. And he told me that probably some of the most important things were things that you would do were things that you would keep from happening. Mm-hmm. And you think about that, and that probably was some pretty good things. But I think probably the things that I was most proud of was that at one time the Bradley County school teachers were so far underpaid compared to the city. It was shameful. It was a disgrace, the city still puts more money because of their extra tax dollars into the school system. But the Bradley County school system does a wonderful job. But we got teachers pay equalized, and I don't know, Debbie, you're still teaching. I don't know if it still is, but
it's fairly close. But I have to kind of add in the fact that I get my health insurance paid for, and I think that kind of equals out quite. It's close enough now that it's not a deciding factor that we're not losing tremendous teachers.
Well, that was the problem. Pay. We were losing all the good teachers. The city would say, "Oh man,
Bradley was the incubator."
The incubator. They taught them, and they would get them. So we got that brought up today, and we got the phys ed in school and more aides. I thought we upgraded the school system.
You did that with the sheriff's department too. Pay. I think you got the deputies pay slowly started coming. Now it's separated again now, but.
I was chairman of the education committee for 16 years, and was very proud of that. And we implemented that program, and we worked with the school superintendents and George and Aaron a lot about we can't do this overnight, but this is what we wanted to do. And with the sheriff's department, Dan was instrumental in that, and Cleason Runyon was on the sheriff's law enforcement committee. And you remember, Ron, that policemen used to work 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week, bought their own guns, their own bullets, uniforms, the whole bit.
About $400 a month.
Yeah, and they were driving cars that had 250,000 miles on them.
That never got turned off.
Yeah, and so we talked about that and said, well, they said, well, you can be a policeman when you can't be anything else. Well, what do you expect when you don't pay them anything and you expect them to work day and night?
And they all have to be graduates now, I think, too.
Well,
Bill, I'd like to invite you down to Black Fox when school starts back, and I think that it would bring tears to your eyes to see the quality education that we're offering people in Bradley County now. We have the big whiteboards. There's internet in every classroom. The teachers use it like you would not believe, and we have full-time music teachers and we have full-time PE teachers. Now, we still got a ways to go. We don't have art teachers. Most of the schools have a full-time nurse now that she does a whole lot more and puts on Band-Aids. And you would just be very pleased at the seeds that you planted during that 16 years that they have bloomed. We're blooming now, but we're busting at the seams at every school.
Again,
you know,
yeah, exactly, and it's an ongoing problem. And I used to
and flat roofs. Who in the world ever thought putting a flat roof on a building was a good idea?
Talk to Larry Holcomb about those flat roofs, and he will tell you all about it. But yeah, I used to get so angry with people that would tell me, "Well, I don't have any kids in school, so I shouldn't have to raise the taxes."
Absolutely.
And I said, every time you go get your car fixed, you go to the drugstore, you go to a doctor, you go, whatever you do, that person is a product of public education. One way or other, they're probably, and so, yes, you are getting something out of it, and you're obligated to, not only by law, but you're obligated morally to educate our children. If we don't, what's going to happen to our future? They're going to be the ones that's going to be leading us here before long.
And the lack of education is a tremendous cost too.
Yeah,
I mean,
of course,
tends to be a little bit more crime in people who have less education. Not 100% true statement, but it tends to be there. And the sheriff's department.
If you think
and
education is expensive, try paying for ignorance. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, Bill, thank you
after
for 2
hours, see, we promised you'd pass by quickly.
You got any last statement you want to make?
No, thanks for having me down. I do have to talk to Mike Smith as soon as I can get out of here.
Somebody still wants to talk. Good morning. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Hey, Ron, Hoyt Clark. It's so good to hear
you
on that radio.
How are you, sir?
And I'm great.
Hey, Hoyt, how are you?
Wonderful. I just want you to know the best years of my life was all those years of coaching the boys club and in Cleveland Industrial Park. And, man, let me tell you right now, our commission, they supported our parks. I'm telling you right now, just getting to watch those kids from the time they were little fellas right on up, and it just was remarkable. I fully enjoyed every minute of it.
Well, Hoyt, I thought you was getting ready to say the 5th grade was the best years of your life.
Boy, I'm telling you right now, but I enjoy y'all's program very much, and I just wanted you guys to know that I was listening.
Hey, Hoyt, thanks so much. You just can't thank all those men and women who all took part. A lot of them will never be named or remembered, but done a lot for our community, and basketball and softball. And
when businesses like Volker and Amazon come into a community, they look at the education and the recreation, the health care, the infrastructure, all of those things. You can't separate them out.
Yeah,
makes a good workforce.
It makes a good workforce. Yes, you have people willing to come in to work. It makes a difference in the community that you can build.
I think that's part of the reason Bradley County is so successful. Bill, any final comments?
Yeah, I listened to what Debbie's comments there and yours. I was fortunate enough, and they probably made a mistake, because there are a lot of guys that deserved a lot more than I did, but I was the old timer of the year, not this year, but last year, and a lot of it was because of my involvement in the community and coaching and so on and so forth. And when I first was notified that I was had won that award, I was a little bit hesitant, because I thought any award that starts out with old timer can't be too good. But I think I said that night when I got it, was that I felt like I should be giving somebody else an award for allowing me to do that all those years, because I got so much out of it, and that I didn't deserve to be getting an award. I should be giving it. So it was like, say, a labor of love, and there were so many guys, and I know I've left a lot of them out, but thanks to all of them.
Well, Bill, and I'd like to thank you personally from my standpoint. I've known you for many years, and you've always treated me very fair, and I know you and I have different political views, but you always had a very honest opinion about and talking about things, that even though we have a difference, just a lot of time I enjoyed talking with you about it, and I do appreciate that so much.
Well, thank you.
I wanted to mention that the Caney Creek documentary and book are now available at the Polk County News. They're serving as an outlet for that, along with the Museum Center at 5 Points, and we appreciate everybody that has ordered that and enjoyed that. And it's all about saving history. here on Old Town Cleveland.
Well, and as always, I like to tell people that get those old photos from under the bed and out of the closet and out of the drawers, and start asking your grandparents and your parents and your aunts and your uncles who's in these pictures. Write down their stories, record their stories. We'll always know about Pearl Harbor, but we may not know what happened on your street and your family. You've got to do that, and that's our challenge to you.
And what are you going to be playing when we go off the air?
When we go off the air here today, and in honor of our dear friend Freddie Hyde, who passed away this week, we want to play a song that he recorded called Beulah Land, which everybody loves to do that. Let's get this one last call. Good morning. You're live on Old Town Cleveland.
Good morning.
Hey.
I'm over at Blythe Avenue School. They're having free hot dogs, so I wanted to let Ron Moore know about that.
Okay. How long will they be there?
You have?
And so how long will they be there?
Do I have time to get there?
Yeah, you got plenty of time to get here.
Well, I may just have to head that way.
Your cousin Bob Evans is here, and the Honorable Charlie McKenzie is here, and Dennis Collins is cooking hot dogs as fast as he can. But I'm inside looking at these historical pictures.
Aren't they great?
They're fantastic. I'm looking at a gentleman all dressed up in his Sunday clothes, and he's standing in front of the face of the courthouse clock.
Yes. That would be Mr. Jim Hancock.
Yeah, well, they've taken the clock down, and it's leaning against what I believe was the old gazebo that was out there.
That's right.
They've got at least several historical pictures, at least 3 here of the old courthouse, and I'm really enjoying looking at those. And I wanted to tell you that I played for the Eagles, I believe, from Coach Jim Brown down at Deer Park, and I was not that outstanding. I was too little, and it was very traumatic.
But you got over that.
I did get there. It's all downhill.
Yeah.
But I was only about 6 or 7 years old, and when I put the helmet on my head, it just spun around, and I was just too little, I guess. But I could have been a great football player, but it didn't work out that way.
Yeah, talent got in my way.
Thanks, Doug. Have a good weekend.
Right now, I'm just a great hot dog eater, and I'm going to go enjoy me another one. So y'all try to come if you can. They got music over here.
What are they having over there, Doug?
I don't know. I don't even know what the...
You just know free food.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure it's like so many years they've been in business or something. But anyway, it's kind of in behind the school, and you'll see it if you come over here.
All right. Thanks, Doug.
The hot dog quality is real good, but there's no fixings to put on it. Just mustard and some kind of relish. There's no slaw, no chili. I have to take away points for that. But the quality of the hot dog meat is good.
All right.
Thanks, Doug.
Give them some points for that. Bye-bye.
Bye. Hey, folks, we're going to play Beulah Land here right after our theme song, and we'll see you next week here when we have what, Deb?
Oh, I don't know. We're in the umpires.
Yes.
I've already taken my headset off. Don't ask me questions.
I'm kind of homesick for a country to which I've never been before. No sad goodbyes will there be spoken, for time won't matter anymore. In Beulah land, I'm longing for you, and someday on the I'll stand. There my home shall be eternal. Beulah land, sweet Beulah Well, I'm looking out across that old river where my fate gonna end inside. There's just a few more days to labor, and I will take my heavenly flight to Beulah land. I'm longing for you, and someday on the I'll stand. There my home shall be eternal. Beulah land, sweet Beulah land. There my home shall be eternal. Beulah land, sweet Beulah land.
Looking for America's original music? You just found it at 99.9 Whoop FM. Listen and watch online at whoopfm.com. The Village Bake Shop has been serving the sweet needs of